Okay, so is this my time to start the presentation, or we're waiting for someone? And
I think we can probably go ahead. It's 5 after, so why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to, and then go ahead and give us your presentation.
Okay, my name is Fricis Pirtnieks. I'm from Latvia. I'm orthopedist prosthetist, and additionally, for the last year, I have been co-working together with Jeff Ernstone with Creato NP. I had professional internship at his facility. In the meantime, we are working in Riga, Latvia for software solutions for printing assistive devices, co-working with different orthotic prosthetic clinics here across Europe, and providing them solutions and bringing 3D into conventional clinics. And for this trip, I was invited with, actually when I was visiting Jeff, and he spoke with, this is when the opportunity came to him that e-NABLE could help understand how 3D printing could help in their situation, in their logistics, and that's where quick sum up ended up that we need professional team to sample to show all of the capabilities and possibilities using the technology. So it ended up that it was me, Ed. Ed is from UK. He can probably grasp some words by himself. Ed, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. So my name is Ed Joy. I'm actually trained as a scientist. Now currently working as a clinical trial project manager. So back in 2015, I volunteered in Sierra Leone to fight the Ebola outbreak there, and I noticed that there were a lot of amputees there that have no prosthetics devices. So I decided to find out how to help them, and then I founded a small workshop to make prostheses and orthotic devices for them. So we're now a local NGO, and we employ a full-time.
Oh, we lost you, Ed.
Hi.
We lost your sound, and it was pretty faint anyway. So can you speak up a little?
Yeah. So for the past year or so, we've been giving out upper limb devices as well as lower limb devices, and we use both functional methods to make devices as well as 3D printing. And we have given out around 20 prosthetic arms so far. Most of them are the unlimited Phoenix Reborn. We have started giving out the gripper hand as well, as part of the a cable device connected to the shoulder. So I was invited to join this trip, I guess, to help out, and it worked out pretty well. I think that we all complement each other in terms of skill sets and materials and resources.
So we had a great team of me as from orthotic prosthetic side, and I have intentionally invested some time in learning how to use engineering tools for orthotic prosthetic applications. And in this scenario, what was new was a new terminal device, which was with purpose designed to be more cosmetic as existing and to troubleshoot over gripper hand. And we had Jeff Ernstone remotely, who consulted us and helped us working with the machines, troubleshooting when we needed that, and overlooking the patient's files as well. And of course, John, who helped us to manage all of this together. And as well, we were hosted on the other side with the Vice President of Nigeria office from Innovation and Entrepreneurship departments, which was the main idea pusher forwards from Nigeria's side. So here is end result, as we can see, young kids training afterwards, writing his own name, which is the satisfactory fact of how we saw that the device finally fits and he's getting used to using it.
That was the first time.
I'm shortening it a bit, not to take too much time. And then I have assembled a couple of photos over the process as we went. So can you see my mouse as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we flew to Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria. Innovation center opening, and the whole process where we were working was in an innovation hub into Yola. And the patient came from even more northeast region, and the physician which helped us locally, Dr. Bala, was from Gombe. And so quite some distance to travel around, which for our limited time for being there for 4 days took a day and a half overall. So the quest was more time limited. And in Yola, this is American University of Nigeria hotel, which was our workshop and base camp, and the hub was on the other side of the town. This was our homework, where the demonstration of this new thermal device. It was supposed to be so that opens second, third finger, and similarly as a gripper hand, there's a rubber band tightened with a Velcro, with a rubber band. And these files, once fine-tuned, and I will do another revision after summing everything up, and I'm going to launch these public so that it can be used as alternative thermal device, which can be downloaded. Let's see, the main function is a pinch grip. So small tools can be inserted for grasping, maintaining with the silicone, as well as depending on how strong are the rubber bands, different type of object can be holded and operated. And the good aspect here is which I was trying to fine-tune over previous devices was aesthetics. So this is the base model on which the device is created. So getting into Nigeria, as I said, we flew from the Europe and ended up in an international airport after around half an hour, 2 hour fighting with the local visas. But as you see, the international airport is all up to outside for the Western standards. Except when we got to next flight, then this is what machines they are using around. I have a couple of photos of environment to understand what's happening there in Nigeria. On the street, there are many of taxis imported from China. People driving around cars. When we got to Yola, which is into red area advised for the tourism, which means it's not really advised for tourism. We got convoy with local policemen, which drove with us to the hotel. And yeah, if you have somewhere add raise hand somehow, I will stop and I'll let you in. So when we arrived, as it happens that sometimes printers don't like really traveling, and this was one of the scenario where we faced that nevertheless after assembling we noticed that there are some issues with the machine. So it took quite some time to fully diagnose and to find local help to fix it. And luckily we did manage to find at this hackathon local electrical engineers were combined with my printing troubleshooting skills together with Jeff's. We noticed where it is, and then a local electrician with a mastery of voltmeter diagnosed exactly which cable has to be replaced, which we did. So measurements. This is the kid slim on which we were working. That's the amplitude of range of motion which you can operate. So patient got amputated 2.5 years ago when there were incidents on local region. Maybe Ed, you can explain a bit more what exactly happened there.
So his village was attacked by Boko Haram. He tried to run away, but he got caught again. And when he got caught, they tied him up really tight, so tight that by the time he got rescued, I think the doctors in the northern state has diagnosed that his limb has died, and that's why his right limb was amputated at his wrist. But I think they managed to salvage some of the digits from the other hand and transplanted to the left-hand side. So he doesn't actually have a good hand because his left hand is actually quite weak.
Exactly. So when we saw the first time him, then we took all the possible photos and measurements which we could obtain, which would work as a reference for modeling a device for him. And we use a 3D scanner to obtain 3D image and to work on afterwards a custom socket made for him, where we can see that in the meantime there are a couple of persons around to learn and to learn and understand how this process happens. So not only we were just gathering information, but in the meantime trying to explain what actually happens. And luckily, Ed had already printed some previous devices, which were unlimited palm, which we were able to fit right on the first time to see what potential devices we could make. And as we can see, in comparison to the other hand, it was too large to be similar. Nevertheless, this was the first hand for him, which he had fitted after his amputation. So it was first excitement for him and hope what he could get. And as we can see here, one of the important trainings after manually fitting on him was teaching him how to install such device by himself and to see what's his actually capability over the other hand. As we can see, there are 3 fingers, and one of the fingers is replaced surgically in a position as a thumb, so he can make some grasp. But all of them are influenced from the traumas a bit, and he doesn't have full force for the grasp. So even this, he was a very smart and quick learning kid, and I was able to do that himself after we did that and showed him 2 times. But adding straps and micro processes with the hand was still a tough challenge for him. So where he installs and for the first time tries to grasp something, where he has a nice tiger to try on. Hopefully that will be also one of his training items in the future. This is where he fits by himself, tries to shake a hand to learn. So this all happens in the first evening when we were taking measurements and see what is his power capabilities and interaction with us. Luckily, child was very front-coming and welcoming for all the manipulations, and were very brave and not afraid that there were 6 people around wondering what's happening with his hand. So very front-coming.
I think that was also a very nice icebreaker, and for him to get to know us. I think it was very obvious to him what we're trying to achieve and how to help him. So I think that was a great first day.
Yeah, this is here. He greets once again his father. Yeah, and then after we got measurements, then this is set up which Ed brings with him some demo devices from other e-NABLE projects which have been printed with along, and disassembled printer and materials which we bring with us, where afterwards we set it up into a hotel's room, which became a small workshop of ours, and afterwards was filled with multiple printers. And in the end, 4 printers in one room, which is quite a hub already. And here we can see that together with local electrical engineers, we are figuring out how to fix printer. And once everything has been set up, then all machines were running in the room, which were where we modeled, communicated with Jeff and John, and right across the hallway there was a kids' room, so everything was in one small spot. So we created a small prosthetic clinic right in the hotel, sleeping next to the printers. and fitting a prosthetic. So first what we did is we took the scans, sculpted them together. I sent the files to Jeff. He modeled the cheek socket overnight, which we printed in the early morning, and we're able to fit with the kid and take the. Normally we would take a heat gun and fit it for the perfect fit to see what changes where we can apply pressure so that the prosthetic stays in place and it doesn't fall off and is comfortable for the wearer. And once we noted how much we can add and how much we can improve, then I got back to on Mesh Mixer where I resculpted the cheek socket for his prosthetic. In this case, we were, as I said, we were time limited. So the second cheek socket were already together with a forearm as a final device. Here we can see it fitted and enclosed for the child. We somewhere, I think, had a video where he tries to throw it off with the elbow, but yeah, it was sticking in place, and he was happy that it fits. For the fitting, we used just a hair dryer fan, hair dryer to heat up the plastic and sculpt it directly on the sock which was worn on the person, so that we can ensure that right above the elbow it locks down, doesn't move, and then walks around his residual limb. And so once we have printed all of the components, which is cheek socket with a forearm, terminal device which assembled from 2 devices, 2 fingers, and the rest of the palm. It was assembled together, but yeah, in the meantime we set up 3 printers which were straight out of the box, bought for the innovation hub, and wasn't really directly supposedly if we will be using all of their machines or not, but it ended up that it's great that we have more tools, and all of them were set it up, installed, and 2 in 1 we actually set it up all of their machines for their innovation center, so they won't have to worry about that afterwards. All of them will be already troubleshooted. On the way to hub. So that's approximately how it looks around. People are driving around with the cars in different stages. Some wild nature around, and cows and goats walking around the streets, which I haven't had those pictures here. And for the hub's opening, there was increased security in the town. So some squares around there were local military, army, and policemen. To ensure that Vice President is safe, and so are we. The opening on the front door of the hub inside was really created in up to standards for all of the Western world for new accelerator innovation technology centers. So that was really nice to see that what they have achieved in a house which actually 72 hours before the event wasn't fully even painted. Afterwards, after the grand opening, they shared that most of the work which they have done for the interior and for setting up was done straight in the last 2-3 days to make everything happen in the right time, which is significantly impressive because there was a lot of work has been done there. And so we set up new printers in their hub, which seems to will be their future home, which around in the downstairs, local chatting room and some office spaces will be afterwards for the rent for accelerator new companies and potentially for new projects which will come in there. As we can see in the corner, we ended up setting up all 3 machines, and this is where the kid finally, straight after he has written his name for the first time, demonstrating all of most of the team which were involved from the locals and from our side. This is the yard of the hub. The whole large tent was for the opening ceremony. And as we can see, a beautiful view from the hub's perspective. So it seems like it will be inspirational space to work in. And at the grand opening, in the front of all of the politicians and vice president and all of the formal meetings, Mohammed was invited in front to show his new device and to greet vice president after him saying a speech.
He officially opened the hub himself that day.
I didn't manage to insert the picture where he greets the vice president, but it's on media. I will add it afterwards. In the future, we are hoping that we will get some media coverage footage from the Westminster media team, so we'll be able to create some new, better representative videos of everything what happened in the ceremony itself. And after everything was done, in short time, we were on our way as finalizing our quest. And then in the future, so after a month, it's expected that they will drive to Creighton NP and to John to US to get some training using machines, how to use scanning, how to use alternative measurement methods, and what it means to make prosthetics, to teach them in a person. And then they will have people who will be able to continue what we have started. That's the whole goal and whole aim of this. Yeah, these are with this one this is the last picture of the presentation which I have gathered so far.
And I think the vice president was so impressed with the kid and his drive to write and go to school again. He actually called the family after he left the hub and make sure that he has a school to go to. And he has actually offered Mohammed a scholarship as one of the biggest and most modern schools he has set up in the Northeast. So the father signed consent form on the same day. So Mohammed will actually go to a boarding school, a new school, minutes away from his home next week.
And luckily, it's actually quite close for the kids' home, so it's a less stress for a child. Great news, which we weren't expecting on this trip.
That's wonderful. It was wonderful. And we were told that that very same school is home to at least 1,000 orphans, and some of them has disabilities too. So perhaps it will be a good connection point for us to maybe find other amputees to put hands for.
Yeah. Do you maybe have any direct questions which you have seen so far?
Well, I just want to say thank you for the wonderful presentation. It's so nice to see projects like this where you're taking it beyond simply making a device for somebody, but actually setting them up and educating them and giving them what they need to be able to continue this work. It's really nice to see.
It's almost like it was a test, wasn't it? Every single day, every minute, there was something happening that we had to solve.
Yeah, well, this was a true field experience to see how many tools we can use in the time. We were hoping that we could test also a PET bottle for formable check socket, but sadly because of time limit we were not able to squeeze that in. But we were able to demonstrate at least that there are elbow-driven devices which are much simpler to fit and assemble in with no medical expertise. If locally it's not accessible, it can be more reliable and more trustworthy if it's assembled just by the trained volunteers, and as an alternative device which would be fully custom. And the other brown hand was also gifted to the kid so he can train in a home and to evaluate what activities he's facing and which would be more comfortable for different tasks.
Yep. So the plan was for Dr. B to call the kid maybe every day or every other day this month, and then he will follow up every week, and then later every month to check to see if he's still using the devices, whether they have broken or not. So we will get a story of how the two arms compare. And because we have also left some of the demo hands with the hub, so they can see for themselves what the possibilities are. So some of them are more functional. We've given them different versions of the gripper thumb. Some have actually split fingers so that they can wear gloves. And others are more cosmetic. They were very, very actually taken by the, was it Kwawu hand? Of how naturalistic it looks. I think especially the ladies, we put a ring on the hand, and they were really impressed by what they can do. So there is a market for both functional as well as cosmetic devices.
It's just huge feedback. One of the interesting things is that it was solving one problem after another. First of all, we salute you. Secondly, of course, hopefully the people there began to learn that it's not just a matter of flipping a switch and having hands come out. The whole, so tell us about the learning on their side as you proceeded.
Yeah, well, one thing on the troubleshooting, for example, is a great example, as their electricity grid, sadly, is not as stable as we would hope, as it is in most of the European countries. So to make printers reliable and work in such an environment, we were using additionally electricity grid stabilizer for the voltage, and afterwards transferring that through USB, which is a battery as a backup if electricity grid is changing. From their perspective, we had a great intern, e-NABLE, which is also a representative from this innovation and entrepreneurship department, who was directly involved in all of the steps from making measurements, sculpting, and setting up a 3D printer. Of course, all of these steps are quite actually time-consuming to learn and to master. So this was as a first understanding what it is and what does it take. And we noted some main bullet points for him and the programs which to learn afterwards. And when they travel to US, they are already trained some steps into that, and they most likely will have already more precise questions which to ask and which to learn.
Are they in a position to begin some activities with the 3D printers now that you've set them up?
It really depends if e-NABLE will of his schedule in the center, because as I understood, currently he's operating in Abuja, which means that if he's the main responsible key person in the hub or the machines, then he will have to reteach somebody how to prepare these files. So there's some linkage which we need to ensure that there are more people educated how to use. Even through MakerBots are easy to operate and are made to be bulletproof for elementary schools and high schools, there are still some points to be aware of how machine works.
So is there now local, I mean, not sophisticated, but did you leave behind some Yola-based 3D printing expertise, or is it just the facility that's now in place and they don't have operators?
Yeah, that's the thing. They need to train local operators, and which is one of the key aspects. And the second thing is to find and make local collaboration with a local hospital, where on the map there we noted that there is Red Cross Federal Medical Center, but so far on the stretch there wasn't created existing collaboration. So this is another point to note down on the side, which needs to be done.
Yeah, I think geography will be one of the challenges, because after the main event, most of the guys involving in setting up the whole place has left, except Mary. Mary is supposed to be in charge of the innovation hub. So a lot of the locals that were there were actually not based in Yola. So this is something that we have to sort out, to find someone who is actually based in Yola to operate the machines, and then someone who's based in Yola to maybe do fitting and the other challenges is that the region does not have any professional prosthesis. There's no prosthetic technicians that are available full time to collaborate with. I don't know if you remember seeing the map. Mohammed is in one state, the doctor is in another state, 6 hours away, and then Yola is in another state, and then a lot of the vice president's team is in Abuja, another state. So they're all spread out. I think this will be some of the challenges we have to face, especially going forward, where we're going to recruit potential amputees. How are we going to fit them? Who is going to fit them? Are we going to get them, or are they going to come to Yola, or are we sending out someone with a scanner to scan their limb first? So this is all something we have to think about.
Right, and you don't know what the answer is yet.
Yeah, so far it's definitely a boot in the doors, but the doors are not fully open.
While you have the map up, can you explain how much time it takes also? I mean, I can see geographically an estimate of distance, but how much time is that to take to travel to the Innovation Hub from those points?
So from Abuja to Innovation Hub, we had a flight, and the flight was 2 hours, 3 hours, but less than 3 hours. But by traveling on the road, Dr. Bala from the Mohammed is 6 hours driving with a bus, and nearly 4 or 5 hours driving from there to the Innovation Hub.
Yeah,
so those are quite some hours on the local roads.
Yeah, the distance might not seem long, but because of how the roads are away from big cities, it's going to take a long time. Say Mohammed, it takes him a whole day to get to the hub.
Right, and it takes his parents 2 days' wages to make that happen. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So someone will have to sort out the transport and the logistics. And if patients are coming to the hub, will they have places for them to stay? Something basic like that. Like this time, because of the grand opening, everyone is staying in a hotel. But next time, it won't be like that.
You did an amazing job, guys. This is wonderful.
John, you're muted.
So, I was saying that I've looked at the documents you sent, which are also spectacular work, in just sort of summarizing the conditions. And in reading it, it does sound like the vice president has clearly got a close relationship with this school, was able to snap his fingers and get Muhammad into a school with thousands of refugees and some number of amputees. Now, so this leads me to begin to wonder whether Yola should be thought of as a provisioning point. If we can develop a real alliance with the school and let them, they probably have a nurse or something in the school. But so what can you tell us about the vice president and the school administration and how we might explore that relationship?
I don't know fully about the school administration, but how much we managed to spoke with e-NABLE, then he mentioned that vice president is a sharp guy and tends to follow up on his decisions afterwards without much asking around. So he cares what he does, which is really heartwarming to hear that there is people in charge who are responsible and like what they do. So I think it's quite likely that because of the size of the school, that there should be more than the nurse who gives just charcoal and ibumetins. So I think it's a big possibility that there would be quite adequate, well, not even adequate, like reasonable people to work with within this facility and to probably make there a separate hub in some kind of scale.
So who has the vice president's ear?
Definitely Marsha. Marsha was the presidential aide that contacted Mohammed and his father about the school. And she was the presidential aide for internally displaced persons. So it's all hierarchical. They have different levels of presidential aides. but I have to say that team is very energetic and it's very, very. They want to make things happen, and it's actually very hopeful to see them in operation. Because whilst we were there, they had the hackathon, they have the makeathon, and basically 25 different teams of young entrepreneurs are competing and pitching their ideas in order to get grants to have a startup and move into the hub. So I feel like the hub is supposed to be a good place for collaborations and exchange of ideas. And a lot of people have already asked us, well, what can you print? And maybe apart from printing hands, it can be a great place to do prototyping, because Nigeria is producing their own products now. A lot of LED lights that do not survive in Africa, they're making them in Nigeria now. So they have the know-how. Like Fritz says, whilst we were there, all the expertise were there, like electricians, IT people, people from Cisco, including Ola. I mean, when he came to the UK, people thought he can't operate the TV remote control. But when someone's laptop died, he could restart and fix them from scratch, from DOS. So he is someone that will surprise you, and I'm pretty sure that he will have the tech savviness to pick up any software. It's just to have him at the right place. Yes. If he's not in Yola every single day, what are the chances of these collaborations taking shape? So,
can you go back to the group photo of the team?
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Excellent. So I wonder if you could just tell us about these people. Let me say, I asked this question because the whole success going forward is going to be figuring out how to talk to the right people to get the right things done. You guys know as much as we can know right now, so you need to really think about how to tell us, not ask us what to do, but to tell us what we need to get done.
I think in this picture, the top right person is Dr. B, Dr. Bala. He was the one who got to know the father and the son in a IDP camp and connected us with the patient. He is definitely a very important player because I think he will have access to everyone who needs help or who could be helped by this project. Next to him is the father of Mohammed, the one with the cap in white robes. He's very cooperative and very appreciative, and if every single parent is like him, then that would be a good place to collaborate with, because not every parent would be like that, because some would be more skeptical of what we want to do with them. We want more people like Mohammed and his father.
You know what Mohammed, what Dad's day job is?
Not sure.
Okay.
But he's able to support 10 kids, so.
Whoa.
Yeah, 10.
Okay.
And next to him, I think they belong to the presidential team. But the main guy, the go-to guy, the one who has the president here, is Iffy.
Looking if there's. No, she's not here.
Is Iffy the same as Marsha?
No, Marsha is a very senior figure. She has a seat next to the president. So.
Okay.
But we have Iffy's email. So.
Okay.
What the vice president's team concern is how much it costs to make one hand, and how many we think we can make in a year, and how to justify that to the vice president. Because I think ultimately they want to know numbers.
we had a work group, quick talk, which is also noted about to develop such calculations would be first we need existing input data on what type of devices they are currently making and who are those included persons, because there are some orthotic prosthetic centers across Nigeria. Just where is the closest one, and how many professionals actually are working there, and what are the number of devices that they are making. As we had some calls there in between quickly made, it was noted down that prosthetics is the biggest issue what they are facing to compensate. Currently, as the priority for this 3D project would be helping kids still, most likely, most of them would be 16-year-olds. And for the starting, to avoid too complex modifications and too high medical responsibility, the weight bearing, those would be arms, which would be created in this matter. Because for leg prosthetics, proper prosthetists first have to be found and understood what's their existing workflow, and if they can be trained. Because on the future development of this project, I look forwards that, at least that's in my vision, is quite optimistic scenario, that the people who are operating these machines and training and staying in these hubs and participating in this project could be young people, straight students, or young professionals, because those are much easier to train for technology, and they would be like a helping hands for somebody who is actually having medical expertise and who is taking the measurements and providing everything else to those people who are tech savvy.
Very interesting.
And
it's an option which I think is quite promising in the future than overtraining their prosthetists, which are most likely using conventional methods for their whole life.
Right.
And depends how young professionals are there.
Did I hear you say that sort of the maximum impact might come from focusing on 16-year-old amputees, providing them with low complexity, high-speed devices in as much volume as we can?
Yes, for the kids, yeah, kids still 16, so those most likely would be 6 to 16. That would be promising
6 to 16.
age.
Okay. Ed, what were you trying to say?
Dr. B did say that most of the cases we have seen has more knee. So the amputations would be above elbow.
Right. Yeah, so let me say that I think this has to be the summer. This is a message to all enablers everywhere. This has to be the summer when we develop an above-elbow enable solution. I have a team that includes Jack Buchanan and a prosthetics student from Scotland who will be working with me this summer. Ed and Fritzis, I'd like to recruit you for that also. It could be that the bottle is part of that solution. To me, the big missing link, which is what we will address, is going to be some kind of adjustable locking elbow. But a above elbow solution, which includes a firm attachment to the body, is, I think, something we really need. There's the high need all over, and there's this, I now hear, immediate opportunity here in Nigeria. And so I'd like you guys to think about that too.
And did you mention that the most popular devices are above elbow or below? Did you mention that? Okay.
That most amputations are above elbow. That's what you're saying. Yes, understood.
Okay. Because in world numbers, it's usually the other way around. But I maybe missed this line somewhere in the meeting.
Right. And because that's the amputation strategy of Boko Haram. Is that what we're saying?
Well, that's what Dr. B has reported, because I've asked him specifically for upper limbs amputees where the injury was, and I also asked him about lower limbs, and he said that for lower limbs it's 50-50 between above knee and below knee.
Again, I think
I want to make sure, because I want to make sure the devices we have actually can address the issues.
Right. So Ed, you're doing some lower limb work, but what I'm hearing is that we should really focus on upper limb to establish our network and our system before we take on the experimental and difficult lower limb project, if we ever do.
Well, if I have it my way,
Yes.
like with unlimited supply of resources and money, I would actually explore setting up a prosthetic center, P&O center, that has a full range of capacity, 3D and non-3D, so that whoever comes to us, whoever needs help, we have some solution for them. Because right now, I feel like we have a solution and we're looking for people who has the problem.
That's right.
Even further, even through, if the numbers say, and it's true, that the biggest necessity is above elbow, it will require additionally intensive research development to ensure that devices are up to where we expect. And for the first months, first year, when they have training, when they have people in competence, I think the main focus where we can do the impact would be still below elbow devices, which is so that we can make first numbers, ensure that they work, they know how to operate machines, they are much more simpler to assemble, much more robust in general. And
Right.
let's start with what we can do and train the fastest, I think.
Okay, I think
And,
that's well said.
in terms of reputation, I think we will have to have a system of quality assurance as well, because we don't want to give out 1,000 devices and have them all, I don't know, fall apart within a month. So in the beginning, we will have to go very carefully with what we know.
So I think what you guys have just said sounds exactly right. Do what we do pretty well better while developing what we don't do well yet, and focus on follow-up. Now the challenge is that I think we all understand each other, but none of us are in Nigeria. And by the way, Ed, right now there's no plan. I'm ready, Maria. Right now there's no plan to
Connection?
Well, when Ed was getting ready for this trip, I was explaining to him that one of the board members for Apples is also on the board for WAAW, which creates STEM programs for women and girls. It's located in Abuja. He didn't have time to visit, but that's the key, I think, to working with the government and part of the follow-up, and to connecting the clinic that you have with the medical people that we have contact with. And also, I'll be there in November. So it gives us another person on the ground to follow up.
Well, that's great. How long will
I couldn't understand what you said.
you be there in November?
A few weeks.
Great.
So I didn't hear, but I'm really sorry. I have to go. I am so happy to see you. I'm really grateful to the pictures and images that you shared here, and also with the laying groundwork, because I'm so appreciative of the fact that you went there knowing that it was part of a very long game, and laid groundwork for us. So thank you all. This was a joy, probably the best part of my day, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you, Maria.
Bye.
Okay, well, thank you guys again for the wonderful presentation. Any final comments or questions for anyone?
Yeah, so big part which John noted, but which is actually, I think, for the longevity, the biggest important is that we're going to sum up the document for noticing which were the struggles and the obstacles which we faced so far, and what would be also from the equipment, from expertise perspective, what would be the resources needed to create such hub, to have all the competences and everything in place. And hopefully we'll on the time where we'll sum up, then we'll let everyone know and share what would be a good work document to start any type of new center in wherever in the world.
How to set an innovation hub, basically.
It's great, but the other thing you have to do is really figure out how to help us strategically drive the people in Nigeria toward something that will work. There's always this tremendous burst of enthusiasm when we give a device to a kid, and you get the media splash, which frankly is, I think, an important part of what the officials need, and then it's very easy for that just to sort of dissipate with some lasting publicity and some non-lasting institutional or organizational support. It does sound like there are people who, if we can figure out how to stay in their face and give them a clear roadmap, we can work with. But I doubt that it's not going to happen without some systematic work on our part. And you gentlemen have got all of the tacit knowledge about who and how it works that's going to be needed to drive it forward. Maria and I'm sure, will be very happy to do things you tell us need doing, but you're going to have to help us figure out how to do it.
So the first thing for actual follow-up and seeing where it goes is by knowing when Dr. Bala gets in touch with the school, as he mentioned that his direct plan is to follow up on how the kid gets into his school, how he adopts there, how he faces the first challenges there. And by doing that, one part would be by knowing what medical expertise there is in the school, and probably what follow-ups could be done, not by Bala himself traveling to there, but we would have the next contact person in the school, which would follow up, send photos, and hopefully with that person, we could ensure the future collaboration.
Right. So who should prep Dr. Bala on that scenario? Let me just say, it's a school. Schools with 3D printers doing e-NABLE work is, one of our big side successes. So if possible, we should be thinking about that, how to get the school involved in this actively as an educational as well as a beachhead project. But to do that, we're going to need the right partner at the school. That means we're going to need Dr. Bala to scope that out, or someone is going to have to scope out the people at the school. Maybe
that would be Marsha.
Marsha.
Yes,
okay.
Because I think she is on the executive board of the school, and they were branding the school as a life changer because most of the kids there were orphaned because of terrorism. So the success of the schools and the kids is very high on their priority.
So maybe we can start there. Are you in a position to write to Marsha, CCing, because we're not trying to go around them, but we're just sort of trying to use to not get into the usual queue. Are you in a position to write? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, it is.
Are you in a position to write to Marsha, CCing Ibukun and Kiola and Dr. Bala, describing this sense that the school itself might become a really important hub, both for ensuring that Muhammad is a success, for then working with other kids like Muhammad at the school, and for building out from there.
That would be a huge confidence boost for the region as well, because everyone is looking at the school to regenerate and, inject hope into a place that has been destroyed by terrorism.
And do you have all the emails?
No, I don't. Okay, who's going to get them? Can you?
Ikiola, we do. Ikiola, if you ask Ikiola or Ifi, they will have contacts.
Okay, Ed, I don't know how much. So that's a great next step. Is this communication with Ife, who I don't know, and Ikiola? Are you in a position to take that next step? You can, CC me, so I can continue the conversation. But maybe you can write to Ife and Ikiola with this notion of what would be the best step forward.
Okay.
CC me, and then we can. That'll get us to the next step.
Yeah. I guess we just have to be very clear with what we're trying to achieve and make them as specific as possible. Otherwise, they won't know what we want to do.
I think that's right. I guess the only other thing I'd suggest, I'm happy to review the letter or not as you see fit. I really think that your judgment is great here. But it seems to me that on the one hand, there are things we want in order for our project to succeed, but what they want is certain kinds of successes. And this is as exciting a success for them as I imagine they could have. So thinking about presenting it to them as something that might help them advance their agenda, which it does, may well be the way to keep it on the front burner.
Okay.
All right, fantastic. Gentlemen, I know I've said it before, but I just want to say it again. I think this is just a model enterprise, and it was entirely due to your ability to go in there and solve whatever problems needed solving and to have your eyes open to appraise the situation. It's a real techno-social tour de force. Congratulations.
We have to thank caffeine and alcohol, sugar.
All right. Congratulations for the caffeine and alcohol.
To stay awake, yeah. Okay. So we have first plans. So we're waiting for the first follow-ups from their side within approximately a week. Is that true?
I think he's supposed to call. Maybe we should send him a schedule of when he should call, and then when to feedback for us. Otherwise, it may or may not happen.
Okay, so
let me suggest that you write this. I was going to say maybe this short memo. You ask Ife and Ibukun, or don't leave her out, but Ikiola, to review a short memo to the vice president saying, here are the critical next steps. And one of them is Dr. Bella's reports, and the other is the connection to the school. And that sort of puts everyone on notice about what is expected of everyone. That's my thought about how to do it, and I'll look forward to seeing how you think it should be done.
Okay, we'll draft something.
Okay, great. Okay.
All right, thanks again, guys. Wonderful presentation. John, we're already kind of over our hour here, so unless you have any critical updates, I think we should just call it a wrap for today.
I'd call it a wrap.
Okay.
Can we have a t-shirt?
What's that?
Can we have a t-shirt? Your t-shirt.
A t-shirt. Oh, I bought this from Jen's store, enablingthefuture.org. Yeah.
Oh, there is a store.
Yeah. Go to enablingthefuture.org, and there's a shop link, and she has the shirts there. I bought a bunch of them.
You'd be able to say, I went from Oxford to Nigeria, and all I got was this dumb t-shirt.
Yeah.
Actually, we got a cap. We have a cap and a mug.
Great.
John, candidates for next week's presentation, I think, would be either Melvin or Skip. Do you know if either of them are open to presenting next week?
They're both open. And I was pushing Skip yesterday to do today. So yeah, I'm pushing both. I would like to have one of them present next week, and I'm on the case.
Sounds good. Just let me know which.
Okay.
Guys, thank you very much.
is there a known subject what they are speaking about?
Well, yes. Skip, if it's Skip, he'll be talking about...
No signal.
We lost you, John.
Gripper and adjust the rack and bottle. I'll say it again.
Yeah.
We have a system that we would like to sort of describe as a system. It's the adjuster wrap hand, the adjuster wrap sleeve, the gripper hand, and potentially the soda bottle socket as component parts that fit together and make for a very slick looking and potentially fast package, because only the hand needs to be printed. So that would be our topic. Melvin has a number of wonderful programs cooking in Honduras involving teaching, by the way, teaching amputees how to make their own prosthetics and then 3D printing technicians. So that's a scenario we should have in mind for Nigeria as well, but that would be his topic.
Good.
Okay.
So we have already a teaser for the next week.
Okay, guys. This has been recorded. I'll put a recording out to the Google Plus community a little bit later, hopefully later today. And again, thank you so much for the work you've done in the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Well done.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.